which is where Minitroupax likes to shine. Where Upset, it is more about late game for him. So we have to see how they draft in this game. Vitality, they actually said last week when they did the pick and ban phase that when you play Upset, you just ban away hyper carries. Well, right now they're banning away a lot of late game carries.
So is Jinx going, or?
Jinx could actually be one of the picks we have to look for in this pick and ban phase.
It could actually be one of the bans too. It wouldn't be surprising to me if that was the third ban. I think Schalke, in terms of like what they're trying to go for, is actually isolate like the jungle pool and maybe even go for the Sejuani early on.
I think the Zac ban is interesting over something like Sejuani. I think a lot of it comes down to mid lane ganks, where Gilius showed against Fnatic that him and Jiizuke with Zac and Ryze had a great combination, good synergy to shut down an enemy mid laner. Schalke removed both components in the first draft phase already.
Very smart. And there, Kalista for
okay.
That's not surprising on this patch, at least. I would expect Vitality to pick up the Sejuani now, because I think given Schalke too many tools to actually engage and perform well in team fights is gonna like not bode well for them.
Looks like they want to take away Alistar as well to avoid Kalista Alistar, which of course is one of the big combos you can get in the bot lane. I'm actually surprised Kalista was left open. I think she's one of those picks who should be banned in almost every single game, but Vitality clearly okay giving it over to Upset.
Yeah, and Schalke with that also saying, hey Upset, here's your pick.
Yeah, for sure.
We want to make you comfortable. We want to make sure that you can put on a good performance versus Minitroupax, so we'll see what happens. Sejuani is back, yay, or still there, I should say.
I'm happy, but there's this Nuno thing that's maybe
still
going
open.
on, but...
Nuno Azir is available. The combo is right there if they want to take it now and play it.
Like, it wouldn't be too surprising. I don't actually like that Kalista pick though in general, like for Upset in this very stage of his being. I think putting so much pressure on him to win lane, because I think Kalista does have to win lane against most matchups, is kind of iffy if you're not quite sure how you can still perform on stage right now.
Well, it looks like not both picks, at least not Azir and Nunu, but Braum already locked in.
And yeah, Braum, I mean, he is the best available support. He's good against Alistar as well. It's a very safe choice for them. And it also means they can play around bot side because they get additional CC from the Braum. So if they do pick Galio here, they have the option to look bottom side, even against an Alistar. But
so is that what you... Oh, there we go. It is the Alistar instead, which the Azir, excuse me, which makes a lot more sense. So let's see what the answer will be in the first phase.
And I was just very quickly, I want to talk about Pride and his champion pool, because he prefers the Kha'Zix and these kind of like more carry junglers. Because again, Nuno Azir was available if they wanted to play it. Nuno was banned both games we've seen today already, instantly on red side, but not in this one. And they valued the Braum over it, so we got to see if that pays off.
There are always mind games going on when you think about pick ban, like in general, even about single picks, because Vitality must have some kind of info that probably the Nuno is not going to be something that he prioritizes, as we already said. And I think Pride in itself, like, he's a really passive jungler in general, so giving him something he can rather farm on is going to be priority for them.
We get the Zoe as well for Jiizuke, was the champion he used against Misfits to destroy Senkooks in the mid lane, and was fantastic. Jiizuke again put him on a champion where he can be aggressive, where he can try and really use his mechanics, and he will shine. Definitely. It's what we've seen already. NukeDuck needs to show that he can hold him. Yeah,
especially in the early game, Jiizuke crushes before 15 minutes, 100% kill participation, which is first for all mid laners. He's really active in that early game, so they're going to have to look out in that mid lane. So what will they do? Are they going to look to protect that mid lane, you feel? What are they trying to build here, Schalke?
I think Schalke needs to just play through bottom lane anyway, so giving mid lane some safety, giving them some vision is going to be the only thing that they have to do. I think any jungler applies here, but I would like to see them go for a tanky jungler that can still somewhat engage team fights, because I think it'll be tough for anyone to follow up onto Kalista's engage or at all if they don't have anything going for them.
Very few of those junglers left. Gragas is a possibility for Pride. He did play it last year as well, but again, he prefers the carries. Nuno is still left open, and Azir is locked in on Schalke's side. Vitality are clearly saying, either you don't play it, or if you do, we do not care. We do not think it's going to be strong. We are fine giving it over to the Schalke team. And if Schalke locks it in, their late game is amazing with it.
What is the entire point of blind picking Camille right now, though?
Well, they have a history of Cabo just picking things that he can do fun things with in lane. Do you think it doesn't fit in the comp?
No, I mean, that's not the issue. I'd rather think that just picking AD carry here, maybe they really value Camille as a blind pick, but I think picking AD carry at that point would have been way better because you already have the Kalista come in, so you know what you're facing, and allowing Cabochard to counter pick, especially if you're unsure of what the enemy jungler is going to play and what the enemy top lane is going to play, is way more valuable. But I like this Varus pick a lot.
I think the Kha'Zix on the other side, I'm not a fan of it. I think there were much better choices for him. Nuno, Gragas, some of the choices, even a Jax jungle. I would have preferred here, but Pride really likes this Kha'Zix pick for himself. The rest of Schalke's comp, though, super solid. Like, I like the push they're gonna have, especially mid and top. I love the scaling on this team, and they have Kalista, so amazing Baron control with Kalista and Cho'Gath.
Very excited about that. Of course, the coach Kyoto is going up against people he knows very well, so it's a bit of a grudge match rather there, but he'll be really happy with this comp he drafted. So Yamato, what is he looking to do then with this composition and the picks we saw coming out?
Destroy early. There's no other way. They have to force fights around mid lane into top side of the map because they're not gonna be able to do anything bot lane at a certain point because this Kalista and Braum combination, especially with Kha'Zix roaming bot lane, is gonna be too dominant.
I definitely agree with that one. I think the Camille top really signals they need to play around Cabochard at some point in this game here, otherwise he won't be able to shut down Cho'Gath in the early game, and we know the scaling of Vizicsacsi is going to be amazing. And what teams do against split push comps, if you have Cho'Gath, is when you hit past 20 minutes, you don't care about stopping them in the side lane, you just rush to the Baron itself, and you can take it down so fast, and you force the enemy team to start playing team fights. And this Vitality drafted team fights, much weaker than the Schalke one.
Much weaker. Well, I think you guys have your vote for Schalke. We'll see what happens. The team's already on the Rift, so let's head over to our casters and get into the action.
Thank you, Shox. I'm Daniel Dracos, joined by Vedius to bring you this match of the week. Team comps locked and loaded, headed onto the Rift. So we get some scenic shots before the brawl begins. And Schalke already look like they have some plans here, Vedius. Not even getting a chance to talk about the game, to talk about the compositions. Got to keep our eyes on this level 1.
We got a lot of insight from our analyst. Jiizuke now getting collapsed upon. Going to be forced to use a very early flash with a quick turnaround and a cheeky tongue towards his opposition. But he now has that summoner spell unavailable. It can be rather difficult for an Azir to set up for an early gank against a Zoe, but it will give NukeDuck a bit of pressure. And this is going to be a very big mid lane matchup that we're going to have to keep our eyes on throughout the rest of this game.
I mean, Jiizuke, NukeDuck, the new hyped up Prodigy. We were already excited about it kind of coming into this matchup, but now NukeDuck with a bit of an edge. Maybe not the pressure that you talked about.
Oh, now I understand. It's because I'm Andrew Day and you're Daniel Dracos. That makes sense.
I was wondering why you were above me.
Yeah, it's alphabetical, that's why. Anyway.
When you said alpha, I thought this was going in a completely different direction. For now, we are going to check the level 1s and start up. Early game was the big talking point that we heard on the desk.
Yeah.
And now we feel like we have to keep our eyes on the junglers, see what lane they want to play around. They already talked about potentially snowballing top as an avenue to find Vitality, that lead. Camille, been notorious in that regard. Is there any other alternative way that Vitality can play this? What do you expect to see from them here in this early game?
I mean, Jiizuke could become a monster again, just like he did against Senkirk's and Misfits last week. He pretty much just dumpstered that lane 1v1, right? And he showed the capabilities of Zoe against an Azir if the matchup is played as aggressively as he likes to play it.
To be fair, he's already so hyped. Is it possible for him to get even more hyped up? I think the only way it is if he beats NukeDuck in lane after losing Flash level 1. But that seems unlikely, Vedius.
I mean, he's working his way through some of the top mid laners in Europe, and NukeDuck is the next one on his list. He has been stampeding his way, galloping his way to the top, but he still has a pretty strong opposition, and it's really exciting to see him now play the Zoe once again. He does have one game on it already, as we are currently dealing with a very short pause, which I imagine we will very quickly deal with because of our fantastic technical team behind the scenes.
All right, just Jiizuke experiencing a few FPS issues, so hoping to get that fixed and back in the game shortly. But this kind of makes me nervous, Vedius, when you see Vitality draft like that. Of course, Deficio already talked about it. Yamato came on to the EU40 podcast. He talked about what he wanted from his team. He said, hey, I'm going to try stuff in draft. I'm going to bring new things to the game. This team's going to learn how to play all these different compositions while so many other teams are just focused on getting those wins in the early season. But this this is risky.
Yeah, I think there's... So I'm a little hesitant to say it's necessarily risky because I'm looking at like Sejuani, Alistar, Varus. That's a very solid core. I think that for any team, really, in the current meta, it has team fight value, you've got engage, you've got disengage. It's pretty well-rounded, right? I think it's pretty solid.
I agree with the core, but it's when we get to the side lanes.
It's the sides that think,
you know, Camille, Zoe can one-shot people late game.
She can.
Camille can duel anyone late game.
Agreed.
The issue is when you look across, Fedius, and you see the Cho'Gath, a.k.a. the Burst Mage tank. Weird how many roles you can describe for him. And Azir.
Exactly that, yeah. It's really important that the Camille is able to get ahead. Once she's got a lot of items under her belt, she will be able to out-trade the Cho'Gath later on into the game. But the Cho'Gath never really has to play to side lane, because if he does have the lead, he always has the advantage of saying, oh, you want to split push? Well, I can now start Baron. It's super easy for me and my team composition to be able to force this objective, because we have a Kalista, we have a Cho'Gath, we have an Azir, all very quick Baron-taking champions that Vitality will be forced to play around. And that's why the analysts made so much focus on this early game, because if Schalke get the early game lead, that Baron, the ability for them to force fights around that objective becomes so much easier for them, and that's exactly what they want.
All right, well, the players have up to play through, so we should be getting back into game shortly. And the other thing that excites me about this Fedius is it feels like it's been the Jiizuke show for so long. And I think we will still see some of that this week, but one thing that Vitality keep trying to do is they're putting Cabo on these carries. This man has played Gangplank, Jax, Jace, Lucian in a world of so many different top. He's not touched the Ornn once. He has not touched the Cho'Gath. He has been all about those kind of damage-dealing champions. Once again, getting that with the Camille in his hands. And it feels like a lot of confidence in this guy. And he hasn't, you know, he's kind of been on the back burner as we get back in the game here.
Well, Yamato on your podcast did say that he feels Cabo is one of the most underrated players in the league right now. He has a lot of confidence in his top laner. He's willing to put him on these carries and say that I can put you in a position to carry. And we saw evidence of that in his first game where he played the Jace. The team invested heavily into the top side, but even then it was Jiizuke that stole away the show. So I still get drawn towards the top side, especially in this matchup where while Jiizuke can have a good performance, we're looking to see how much of an influence Cabo can have on this Camille.
Yeah, and additionally, having to go up against Vizicsacsi on Cho'Gath, definitely not comfortable. Vizicsacsi, well-experienced, veteran Cho'Gath player, has had some insane results across his last few games on this champion. And now, big show of confidence here for Schalke. They're invading. They're looking to shut down the Sejuani early. They know they have the lane pressure. Free access now to the jungle, but Gilius has sniffed this out. Good warding means that he will be safe, and they're not actually going to commit to taking the red buff, so use of pressure not working out for them in the end.
Yeah, you identified it, Dracos. The simple fact is NukeDuck has the strong early push with the Azir into the Zoe because of the soldiers and due to the fact that Jiizuke doesn't have enough points in his Q yet. There's just more damage available in NukeDuck's kit for the early game. And the great thing about Cho'Gath is you usually start with the E early, so you have little void spike thingies, and that just gives you a lot of early push. So Pride feels very confident going for these kind of invades. This is one of his most comfortable junglers, and he's going for a bit of a flank. He sees everything.
Has the blast cone, has the vision. Gilius with flash available, looking for a little bit more, leaping forward, so much damage. Right back out for Gilius. Quick flash takes him to safety, but steals it away, and that's going to be a big early lead. Coming in for Gilius. But there was too much action, folks. We're going to take a brief break. We're going to let everybody calm down. It's early game. We're not going to get too riled up.
Players were like, whoa, 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 whoa. 10 minutes was the agreed upon time that we challenge each other to a duel. Why are you after my first red buff while Pride takes it away? And he was a player that has a bit of debate around him, a bit of discussion, because when I personally look back at his recent performances, especially last week on his Jarvan, he didn't really do a lot. He spent a lot of time in his own jungle, he spent a lot of time farming, and he didn't really have much of an early game impact. It didn't feel like that he used the strengths of his team's composition. He made a couple of weird decisions, and it feels like that he was making similar kind of mistakes that he was making last year when he was a part of that Roccat organization. But we've heard a lot from Schalke about how he is one of the younger players. He is someone that's going to take a little bit of time to adjust to the new environment and learn. And I feel like we're starting to see a bit of evidence to suggest this element of growth. He's utilizing the pressure that he has with his laners. He's working with both Chachi and NukeDuck to find these advantages, and being on a comfort pick like the Kha'Zix has enabled him to steal away this early buff, force a flash out from Mr. Gilius, and now get a bit of an early advantage.
I heard the devs kind of skeptical about the Kha'Zix pick, saying there's a lot of other good options, but it looks like Schalke did have a good plan for this. Utilized the lane pressure from the Cho'Gath. Now Pride is coming into the jungle as well. Feels like good coordination from the team overall. But while league officials work with the problem reported by Jiizuke, let's head over to the analyst desk for a look at the draft phase.
Thank you very much, guys. We're just going to be swapping out the PC, and that means that we can talk amongst ourselves about the comp and what has been happening so far. Dracos just mentioned the fact that there did seem to be a plan for Pride and the Kha'Zix, because you were quite skeptical about it.
Would be weird if they didn't have a plan with that specific pick. So obviously, utilize Cho'Gath push in the early game to go for this first invade that we got to see here. Didn't get the kill, but he will secure the buff. So that is an advantage, but obviously most games will go very late, and that's where the Sejuani will then end up outscaling the Kha'Zix, which is could be one of the problems for Schalke, but early on, they had a plan, they executed it, and he's getting the red buff.
Exactly. It's only like one element in what is possibly a very, very long game. However, the confidence boost might help Pride in this case.
Yeah, definitely. Just stealing away a buff like gives you so much level advantage anyway, because you're basically like taking one buff away, he doesn't get it, then go back to your jungle, clear your stuff, because now Sejuani is also forced back. So that in itself like is probably gonna help him in the early game. I still really disagree with the pick, and I think anyone who tells me it's a good pick.
It's a great pick.
It's trolling. And I think you're trolling right now.
You said the same thing about the jungle Camille, and it didn't win. So I think you can believe Amazing scored.
There we go. We will not talk about some of the discussions we had earlier today about other jungle picks between me and Amazing, and we'll just say Amazing is always right.
Amazing is always right. So as said, we're just waiting for PC to get swapped out, which gives us a chance to look at some other things that have been happening. You mentioned that bottom lane that we were looking at very closely. Upset versus Minitroupax. Minitroupax is having some trouble.
Oh yeah, tough start from him down the bot lane. Early push for the Kalista and the Braum. You know, upset right now, wants the game to just end, so he will win by like 10 CS over Minitroupax. Not like we saw in the promo tournament when he would lose the lane, but early on, Kalista gets to push in. It's so early in the game, it's hard to say a whole lot about it, but I actually do want to talk more about the invade from Pride with the Kha'Zix. Will you allow it? Thank you. Will the production allow it as well and show us the replay? So
we're not ready yet. So.
Our professional jungler next to us can talk about what we saw here with the jungle pathing.
So Sejuani should actually look for single target burst on camps, so I think she should have actually gone for the Grom, but since she didn't and kind of like opted for the top side of the map, she has to clear the way to actually hit level 3 if she doesn't want to opt for a red buff early. And I think that in itself is really iffy. And
why do you think he's doing Raptor here instead of red?
No idea.
Is it because he's expecting early invade from Kha'Zix and he wants to dodge around it?
I mean, there's so many mind games going on at this point that it's hard to predict, but I suppose that must have been it.
But, I mean, can we not assume at any given time that Gilius is the mastermind?
You should assume that, but I honestly do believe that in this case, he just made a mistake, a strategic error. You should just go, if you expect an invade like 100%, why don't you just go blue into red, worst case scenario?
That's very true. I think also here, another thing to highlight is how Pride sneaks into the jungle unnoticed, because the one ward in here is from Gilius to add the red buff to spot if they came in early. Typically, you want to coordinate with your mid laner that he wards the entrance in towards the Raptor camp if you think there might be an invade coming. So you have the ward in the brush right next to the red buff, so you can see him coming from that path, and you can see him coming from the Raptor way through your mid laner's ward. But Jiizuke was pushed on the tower.
And he had no flash.
And he had no flash because he used it level 1, so he couldn't actually get out and place the ward. Pride Stalker sneaks his way in behind, forces the flash, steals the red buff. So some small things right there in favor of Schalke, which gave them now a good jungle advantage.
And does this now mean with this jungle advantage that Pride is now set up? No, is he set up to right now go gank somewhere, and where would that be?
I definitely think he is. I think he won't have as many opportunities top until it goes to level 6, and I think at that point he's actually going to be able to use the Cho'Gath, use the feast to actually burst down the Camille and just gank her and die for her.
Another big thing though now for Schalke is no red buff on Sejuani, she's behind. Cho'Gath can perma-push top lane, doesn't have to be afraid of a gank. Mid lane, same thing for NukeDuck. So right now, as long as they can set up another invade, next time Pride is ready to go for it, if maybe he goes back once and then he goes for the second invade on the blue buff when that spawns again, they should be able to control where Sejuani is on the map.
Yeah.
And suddenly, these lanes can just keep pushing from Schalke's side, and they don't have to be afraid of Gilius.
It's also unreal how much we're trying to predict and trying to kind of forecast this game without only having seen a
It's
couple
3
of minutes.
minutes only, yeah.
Good
It's a
job.
bit hard.
That's why you guys get paid to do this fun job, you know? You guys are good at
Do we?
So, in any case, you guys did talk a lot about the Schalke draft and how it would be good. Obviously, they have a good start, but now talk to me about Vitality. Well, actually, I am not going to let you talk because we're back in game, and that's more important. The answers are going to speak for themselves. Let's go back to the casters.
Woo! Back in game, almost.
Up top.
Nice.
We're going back into game.
Weathered the pause. We now know a lot more about early game than you guys were probably expecting to learn in a single cast.
Educational time with Maurice and Martin. That could be a great fun morning show. Come learn how to invade the jungle with Maurice and Martin.
I like how Maurice is like, Shox is like, can you imagine what Gilius is thinking? And he's trying so hard. He's like, I don't understand what he, I guess maybe that's what he was thinking. It was a struggle.
But we did hear Yamato say that Gilius always has a reason for his decision making. So perhaps we'll get an opportunity now.
Bot lane. Seeing a bit of aggression here. Minitroupax actually doing a lot of damage there. Great engage comes in from Jacktroll. And actually perfect that this trade happens now, because I think the bot lane is something that we have to talk about. While the top side of the map might be a lot of jungle evades forthcoming, there's a lot of expectations here on the bot lanes. And already you can see pretty decent CS lead coming out for Upset.
Yeah, so this is due to the nature of the matchup. Upset versus Minitroupax. Kalista versus Varus. Kalista does have that early dominance. She has the ability to trade very effectively in the early game thanks to her rend. And while Varus has decent wave clear, unfortunately, he is paired up with the Alistar, which does struggle to kind of go for those all-ins early on, especially against a Braum. So that's resulting in this slight differential. And now you can see that we do return back to a bit of a back and forth around the middle lane.
And now I like that Jiizuke is still playing very confident, that he's still playing very forward. Does have the flashback now, so it does make a lot of sense. Nice to have presumably the Summoner Spellbook to get that cooldown up a little bit sooner. We'll have the runes back on your screen shortly. And until then, Cabo remains, unfortunately, trapped under tower endlessly against Vizicsacsi, and the obnoxiousness that is Cho'Gath sustain and laning pressure here in the early game.
And Dragos, obviously we've had a couple of technical issues. It's been a bit of an action-packed filled early game. So let's just take this opportunity to reset a little bit, have a look at the state of the game, because Schalke, some of the things that we're looking for them is to kind of get a bit of an early lead. They have the Kalista, they have the Kha'Zix. We want to see these kind of early ganks, whereas Vitality, they want to invest a lot of their ganks towards the top side, try and set up Cabochard for success. And given the amount of pressure Pride has been putting down onto the enemy jungle, this could be rather difficult for Cabo, as he's now struggling in this 1v1 against Chachi.
But he's doing okay, only down 5 CS at this point. We check in on CS across the board. Unfortunately for Vitality, it is up in the favor of Schalke for now. Gilius, have to wonder what he's planning this time. Maybe not expecting Pride to be so deep into his jungle, but just fantastic use of pressure. We've seen this one before. Minitroupax not there to follow up this time around, however. Will just be a back off, and honestly, it feels rough being Gilius right now, because there goes NukeDuck, pushes him back. Might just be the year of the Duck. Pride looking maybe for the first blood here. Gilius, can he make it out? Waiting, trapped in the corner, taken down. Doesn't have the cooldowns to make it out. First blood for Pride.
Pride has just been sitting in Gilius' jungle non-stop. This time, though, Gilius was not expecting a surprise Duck to come out of nowhere. He had pressure in the middle lane. He'd forced Jiizuke underneath his tower, and NukeDuck wasn't cared in the 1v1. He was cared all about getting his jungler a further advantage.
Bot lane just continue to trade an entirely aggressive early game coming out from both sides. Jiizuke now looking to make his mark. Jiizuke, rather, on the bottom side of the map, but not going to find the opportunity, not quite ready to push it that deep. Cabo with a level 6. Maybe feeling a bit more comfortable, but not going to catch Vizicsacsi on the back, and will just look to push out the lane instead.
So let's have a look. You can see Jiizuke stuck underneath his tower. That early wave clear advantage that NukeDuck does have over Zoe being used to its full effect and just working with his laners. Pride has NukeDuck's support. He has Chachi pushing the Camille underneath the tower. And this is the power of pushing lanes, Dracos. This is the power that you can have when you have lane priority, and why it's so valuable at height. Professional play. I was going to say high elo.
I was one step higher than highest elo, I suppose. Well, now we see level 6 is coming in for the junglers, or at least for Pride, who has been stealing so many camps away. Gilius, we have to assume, is not too far behind. But Cabo, maybe looking to make a roam onto the mid lane. He wants to get an advantage, doesn't want it against the Cho'Gath, but NukeDuck does have the cleanse. Won't get him out of the Hextech ultimatum. Will help a little bit for the initial CC. Goes hook shot, wall dive. He's going to force out the shifting sands. Not going to find a result there in the end.
Now, thanks to the roams that NukeDuck has been putting down, that's given the opportunity for Jiizuke to build a bit of a CS advantage in the middle lane. But Schalke, they're kind of starting off that early game advantage, which is what they wanted. We now want to kind of see them perhaps invest a bit of time towards the bottom side, but it is difficult because you're still seeing all the stopwatches, Draco. So we thought that maybe with the removal of the support items and the changes down towards Relic Shield, that maybe there'd be a little more aggression. We have seen a difference in itemization, but the Inspiration Tree is still considered the strongest. It's still considered extremely valuable, and that stopwatch is what makes it so difficult to play towards the bottom side of the map.
And you can still get the free boots as well. Inspiration Tree, just in general, so strong. But we can't see the differences in terms of what these AD carries are trying to pack. You've got Lethal Tempo coming in from Upset. We're going to have to hold that thought, because Cabo's just continuing to get bodied in this early laning phase. And you can see the CS lead just growing and growing in favor already. This mid lane continues as well.
Now we have to keep our eyes on some of the summoner spells in the bottom lane. Ooh, but that's a lot of damage coming down onto Cabo. He's going to be forced to get away. Doesn't even have to use his flash, though. Chachi will have to burn that summoner spell. And it also looks like Schalke not actually looking for a return invade on this red buff. Instead, they chose to try and force a play onto the top laner, try and put a bit more pressure down onto Cabo. He will just be forced to get out of that situation.
And Vedius, it just feels like Vitality will put themselves in a difficult spot, because we talked about how they want to snowball early, but they don't have pressure in any of their lanes. It's so hard for them to make these kind of proactive plays, especially when Cho'Gath can just walk up and do that. That's super disrespectful, man. He's trying to leave. You can't just lock him in combat forever.
Cho'Gath is super obnoxious, dude. He always gets in the way. But remember, like, the important thing here for Vitality is, yes, they're going to get outscaled in terms of late-game team fighting, largely due to the fact of this Azir, but you still look at this comp and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, Varus is not a bad team fighter, and going up against the Kalista, Kalista doesn't have the best late game scaling. You also look at, ooh, hang on, we have another engage in the bot lane.
Here comes Pride, invisible, now they know he's here. Minitroupax gonna try to flash to safety. Chain CC comes in, Pride does so much damage, Kalista throws him right back. That's a kill for Upset. Jacktroll runs for his life. Vander happy to tank the tower. Schalke just extending that lead.
Now this is very much what we wanted to see from Schalke. Pride gets the first early kill in the enemy jungle, and now he brings the gold lead that he has into the bottom lane. They set up a successful gank, and it is Upset that picks up that kill onto his rival, Minitroupax.
And now looking for the Infernal Drake as well. This is a good standing thus far for Schalke. Gilius can look for a little bit more redemption from the Smite steal last week. If he can find one here, will help. Jacktroll is on the way. Pride does a lot of damage. In comes to Zoe, looking for it, not going to get it in the end. Good steal comes in for Pride. They want to take his Braum out to safety. Vander is going to make it over the wall. Vitality are walking away empty-handed, but they're not afraid to keep the fight going. Jiizuke snipes one back.
Really nice play there from Gilius. Recognizes, you know what, I can hard commit to this. Upset doesn't have his ultimate. I can get the kill and get out of that situation as well. Now let's have a look at the whole setup from Pride here. Now Vander, he just clears out the ward. It wouldn't have been spotted anyway due to the control ward, and Jacktroll playing very far forward up in the lane. Vander sees that as an opportunity to go onto him, and Minitroupax naturally takes the advantage of, oh, hey, I can then go onto the backline and do a bit of trading. I can get a bit of more aggro in here, and that's what Pride takes advantage of. He waits for the forward step, and then they just hard commit. Good flash from Vander as well. Schalke then move towards the dragon, and they think, you know what, this should be an easy take. But look at the minimap. You can see that NukeDuck is nowhere near the fight, and Zoe is there. And even with the additional damage, it was just a misplay, actually, from Jiizuke. There wasn't any extra burst. Pride didn't have to compensate for any additional damage, and therefore he was able to walk away with the objective. Not sure how Gilius was actually able to see the Braum, but regardless, confidently goes over the wall and gets himself the kill.
Hungry for it, and we got to say, good shield coming in from Vander to block the damage coming for Jiizuke onto the dragon. Not going to find it. And Pride just continues. This is a one-man onslaught into this jungle. And his trades across the map are just going in favor of Schalke. Things start to look a little bit grim. Only 12 minutes in. Absolutely time for Vitality to come back, but not the start to the game they wanted.
Yeah, I think that it's not the best way to start the game, but it's very much what Schalke needed. It's the team that we wanted to see them get these early advantages. We wanted to see them try and invest in plays towards the bot side of the map. You have the Kalista Braum, and it's very much about trying to get that advantage. Upset versus Minitroupax, setting that AD carry up for success.
These guys have a lot of history, a rivalry that's been kind of building since the Challenger scene. And right now, things looking very good for Upset.
So you can see, these are some of the numbers that came about from the 2017 Spring Promotion Tournament, where Giants went up against Schalke, Minitroupax, formerly of the Giants squad. And in terms of lane, it was in fact Upset that had that slight advantage, plus 1.8, but we don't have time. NukeDuck in the mid.
Shuffle comes out. Tokyo Drift not quite going to find it. Pride backs off. Jiizuke still confident enough to fire back, but Gilius just there for support. He takes the back end of that trade. Good escape goes through, but so close.
Now, what's fascinating here is NukeDuck used his flash to set up for the ultimate use onto Jiizuke, and by using his flash, he gave his flash over to Jiizuke, who didn't have a flash and was then able to get out. So by NukeDuck trying to make the play, he actually also gave his opponent an avenue of escape. Kind of the obnoxious thing about Zoe and her ability to steal away your spells.
I won't name a not obnoxious Zoe ability.
Good point.
It's not possible. But now Vitality trying to take tempo back in their favor. Minitroupax going to make use of the Summoner's Spellbook. Wow. As he moves to the top side, the quick lane swap. Doesn't look like Schalke were quite ready for this one, so Vitality have the tempo advantage here. Will be able to break first tower.
Very nice.
Evening up the gold for now. Now you can see the moves. You run out of words when Zoe does that much damage.
NukeDuck was just kind of like, I'll cleanse this. Oh no, I'm stuck between the tower and the choke point. What am I going to do? And he just kind of gets smacked across the face by a massive paddle from Jiizuke. That's going to force him back. And now Vitality have 5 members around the middle lane. 2 of them are going to go towards the Rift Herald, and the rest are going to take down this mid-tier 1. Fantastic play overall.
Crazy
Vitality.
turnaround.
I love this macro movement because they take advantage of the fact that they have the unsealed spellbook to get the double teleport on the bottom lane. They TP up to the top side, secure a very quick Drake, which Schalke were not prepared for. They can't match it because Upset decided not to go for the unsealed spellbook, instead goes for the lethal tempo. And this has allowed them to secure 2 very early kills, which again, Jiizuke stepping up huge, getting that chunk damage off to NukeDuck, allowed them to group up as multiple members into the middle lane and secure that early tower.
And mid lane just continues to be so interesting. You can see NukeDuck trying to set up the plays. Jiizuke still constantly trying to make them. It's like a double bubble. Does connect, locks Vander up for a bit, but these guys, both monsters in their own right.
Yes, you can just see some of the laning stats and early game stats that these two do have. First and third, plus 17.8 versus plus 10 for NukeDuck versus Jiizuke. First and second in kills, plus assists at 15, and an insane 100% kill participation from Jiizuke versus the 88.9, which is still an insane percentage.
Keep in mind, it's not total, that's at 15 minutes. So that means if someone dies in the early game, Jiizuke is a part of it.
Yes.
Doesn't matter where it happens, doesn't matter what's going down, that man finds a way to show up and put somebody on ice.
But it just tells you why these 2 mid laners have so much attention put on top of them. It is because they are so impactful and integral to the early success of their teams. And if either one of them have even a slight opportunity to make a play, they have all the confidence in the world to make it happen. We saw initially NukeDuck was able to get Pride that early kill, but now it is Jiizuke answering back, not only with a kill of his own, but also securing that first early tower in the middle lane.
Bit of map pressure. Have the Rift Herald up and available as well. Gilius catching back up in the jungle. Just about even in terms of experience. But there goes Jacktroll for the play. He's going to fumble. Cabo. Hook shots in, but he's going to hold the wall dive. Now Schalke are looking for the turn, but they have to be careful because Gilius is over the wall. Looks like Upset's going to be a little bit more than angry as he's going to get taken down. This could just be the double. Schalke have no vision, and they are gone.
The bait and switch. Schalke thought that it was a failed engage from Jacktroll, but Gilius was lying in wait right behind them. The moment Upset stood up too far forward, Vitality were able to punish, and they're going to get themselves another very early tower.
You got to think, for Jacktroll, for 5 seconds there, he goes, oh no, I messed it up. I'm so sorry, guys. I threw it all away. And then when Schalke turned, when Gilius is still waiting there, smile has to light up on his face because he realized the play is not done.
But let's still say, Jacktroll, that was bad.
Yes,
that was
still absolutely bad. I'm just saying that this is one of those things where you go, you know, guys, it turned out okay. Don't think anybody needs to flame me.
Yeah,
right?
exactly that. It was just like, so he goes over the wall and he's just like, oh no, I've messed up. Our gank has failed. What am I gonna do? And Upset's like, I've got you, but no. Surprise, Gilius was behind to help set up for the early, easy double.
And Upset and all of Schalke really played so well in the early game, using that lane pressure, but now making these little mistakes when there's so much pick potential on the side of Vitality is starting to count against them. If they want to get back in control here, they need to, it feels like they need to slow down a little bit.
So now all of the outer towers have been taken from the side of Schalke. They've lost a lot of map control. The gold is heavily going in the favor of Vitality, and these items are starting to come in. Rage Blade now finished for Minitroupax. You can see some of the new support itemization coming out from Jacktroll as well. Going to build an extra bit of HP. He won't have that shield anymore that he used to get from the Targon.
But he doesn't have to build a Sight Stone.
He does not have to build a Sight Stone anymore, so he can start investing that gold into other items. Perhaps he wants to go for an early Knight's Vow, or maybe an early Locket of the Iron Solari, depending on how they want to build that support itemization. But Jiizuke is the real one we're looking at, going for a very early Liandry's. Bit of a surprise, given how far ahead he is right now. We'll have to see how that itemization develops.
And the turnaround here from Vitality is just so impressive. We look, they were behind in CS across just about every single lane. Now you've got Jiizuke with a pretty big lead in the mid lane, I'd have to say. 30 CS is huge, and Minitroupax from being so far behind early on, now catching up as he gets a lot of that side lane farm. Schalke, though, they're okay. They have scaling in their favor. They just have to slow down. They just have to play back, but it might be a little bit difficult at this stage of the game.
Now, the thing is, for Vitality, they've actually done this multiple times. Ooh.
Sleepy?
He even uses his cleanse. That's how afraid he is of a possible engage. The thing about Vitality is they did this versus Misfits, where they took a much stronger early game advantage, and they took so many towers. They took an insanely fast inhibitor. We don't have time because we have another 1v1.
Never mind. Cabo's decided that it is not time for the 1v1. He wanted to hear you finish your point.
All right, let's finish my point. So the thing about Vitality is we've seen this before. Where they fumbled against Misfits was they went for a Baron that they did not need to take. They went for the gamble of the 50-50 smite. Misfits were able to steal it away, and they came back to it. You have to imagine that Vitality have learned from their mistakes. They're playing now much more patiently. Their vision is set up quite spread out throughout the Schalke jungle, and they're saying, you know what? We have control. Let's not be too rash. Let's not be too hasty, and patiently work our way towards that objective that is spawning in 50.
And Schalke is not a team you can afford to make Baron mistakes around. They've proven to be a very smart team. And on top of that, they have a Kalista. So if they start the Baron, almost impossible to steal. If somehow you CC the Kalista, you also have to CC Pride and hope for a 50-50, or CC the Cho'Gath to stop him from feasting. So if Schalke can ever get comfortably on a Baron, Vitality could be in trouble and can't even be confident in taking it on their own right.
And now the ideal situation for Schalke is to just get a little bit more control around their side lanes, because remember we talked a lot about how much pressure they have around the Baron. Cho'Gath, Kalista, you just identified it, Dracos. It's almost impossible to steal that Baron away from this composition. But they can't force the Baron right now, given how strong Camille is on a side lane, given how much wave clear Jiizuke has in the other side lane. And because Schalke are being spread thin, they're slowly losing more and more and more of their map, which is going to make playing for that Baron even harder. So they're just waiting for an opportunity right now. They have to play the patient game. If they try and force a fight too quickly, they could lose a lot more than they would really like to.
Oh, Vitality. Things turning on their head. It was Pride invading all early game. Now it is Jiizuke and the rest of Vitality moving in to take the red buff, or rather the blue buff, away from NukeDuck. Schalke now just on defensive duty, getting down vision, doing their best to play safe, doing their best to play back. Have to see. We talked about side lane potentially being an issue. For now, looks like Vizicsacsi, though, is comfortable enough to approach the Camille. She hasn't quite finished 2 items. So Vizicsacsi still potentially tanky enough to just survive this one out. But now, Vitality could be looking for the collapse in the mid lane. You can see multiple members moving that way.
So top lane is being pushed in by Jiizuke. In the mid, you're having Minitroupax and Gilius just hang around, make sure that that pressure is still there, and you're just gaining control of the Baron area. This is something that we've seen be a gradual improvement for many of the teams in Roccat, given the game is currently very much towards the late game and how you very much have to play around that big objective. Teams are improving their ability to control and just look at the vision. This is very cleanly done from Vitality. Definitely a big adaptation compared to their game versus Misfits.
Ooh, big hit on Pride. 50% gone in an instant. Jiizuke just sniping into the back line. Cho'Gath looks for the TP, though. Minitroupax could be in trouble, but he is going to make it out. Vander will lock him up, but there's no one there to follow up with damage. Gilius and the rest of Vitality are on the retreat. Have to be careful about finding the funnel. Eyes on the Azir, see what he can do, but out comes the damage. This may just be enough to turn it back. Upset has been eliminated. Vitality are on the hunt. Troupax is untouched. Vizicsacsi is going down. What a fight coming in for Vitality. What a turn.
Schalke felt the need to force a fight. They realized they were losing on the side lanes. They realized that they were losing much more of the map than they wanted to, so they go for the TP flank from Chachi. Unfortunately for them, Minitroupax and Jacktroll work so well together. They kept each other alive. They bought enough time for Vitality to reposition. they win out the fight, and they've just secured themselves a very clean Baron.
We have to look back at this one. Flank comes in for the Cho'Gath and looks so good for Schalke.
Now you can see that Camille is nowhere near the fight yet. They do not want to fight right now. A good flash and a good disrupt from Jacktroll to buy time. Now Cabo is in the fight. Jiizuke is threatening the front line. Upset is locked down, and a fantastic ultimate from Gilius to lock him down long enough to allow Cabo to get the kill. You then have the rest of the Vitality team cleaning up and then making their way for a very easy Baron.
And it's just brutal, Vedius. You saw Pride, he's at half health. He can't even approach in the fight. He's so scared of getting one shot by Jiizuke at any moment. So difficult now for Schalke to play until these champions get a few more items under their belt, and then Vitality keep team fighting like this, now with a Baron under their belt as well. Things are going to get real rough for Schalke real quick.
I'm just very impressed with how often Vitality have been able to punish Schalke in this game. They see one person out of position, they immediately go for it. They play on the fact that they know Schalke are going to try and take these small advantages back, and then they're the ones to actually get punished in the end. And now with the Baron, Vitality are just too strong on the side lanes, but Jacktroll could be in some trouble.
Oh. Ultimate still available, is going to get burned. Varus utilized as well, maybe looking for the re-engage. Jiizuke hitting hard to Vizicsacsi in the backline. They're caught in the pinch. This is a good spot for Azir if he can find the fight, but instantly Cabo's into the backline. Jiizuke is there! Vander goes golden, but at the cost of his AD carry's life. Not the trade that he wanted in the end. And so he's still just on the front lines. Schalke are not getting a break. Vitality are relentless as they push into the base. Zoe is merciless in this game.
Jiizuke early on may have had a bit of a rough laning phase, but he has turned this around beautifully, landing so much damage in these fights, helping his team secure a very early inhibitor. Now Chachi trying to find something back.
Not gonna find the knockup. We'll get CC. Chain CC is up and available. TP is now coming in. Which member is gonna be that joins the fray at this stage of the game? Jiizuke there once again. Drowsy goes on to Vander. Not a lot of hope! Oh God, that's the bait and switch. Looks for the Cho'Gath. We'll call that a style move at this point. Jiizuke uses the Spell Thief just to pick up the flash, and now things just look pretty easy for Vitality, although Jiizuke has to be careful. That's still a Kalista.
So much confidence from this mid laner. This guy has done so much work in these fights, but it's just so impressive the way Vitality are working as a team right now. So Jacktroll, bit out of position. He moves into the brush to get a bit of vision to set up for the siege, then realizes, oh, actually, we can go for the turnaround and just keep your eyes on Jiizuke. He lands asleep onto the support, but he's Zonya's, and that allows Upset to get hit by Jiizuke. He was going to get hit by that Gilius ulti anyway, so very likely that he was going to go down. Vander choosing to unfortunately do the instincts and save himself rather than recognize, oh no, my AD's about to die. Now, it was a 1-for-1, but Schalke, they ended up losing more than they would have hoped.
And this is so hard for Schalke to play, because every fight we've seen so far, they've been so split up, they've been so scattered. You want Vizicsacsi and Vander on the front line, stopping all this damage from coming through, but when Vander's blocking over here and Vizicacsi's blocking over here and Cabochard is coming from a third direction, everything gets pulled apart so very quickly by this Vitality lineup.
Vitality playing this extremely well. And Schalke, they're kind of running out of options right now. Their only engage, again, is either a Kalista ulti with the Braum or another flank from Vizicsacsi, and we saw how that went the last time round, especially given the way in which Jiizuke is playing right now.
Sleepy Cho'Gath luckily has a bit of MR under his belt, so won't take too much damage, but the spam here coming in from Zoe, just making it so hard for them to sit comfortably under this tower. Vitality taking the slow siege. Schalke still with scaling on their side. Vitality have to give them that respect.
I feel like Vitality need to push out the middle lane as well. They want to be pressuring all three lanes, especially with this big minion wave that has built up in the bot. Do they go for a dive, or they just rely on the poke from Jiizuke for the time being? Feels like they're just trying to zone Schalke away from the tower. This is the best case scenario for Schalke. Continue to stall, rely on the late game power of Azir, the potential late game damage of a Cho'Gath and a Kha'Zix. But that Kalista, she really starts to fall off the later the game goes. So team fighting, it's going to be challenging for the side of Schalke, especially given the lead that Vitality do have.
Really need Vizicsacsi to be that unstoppable threat. Pride can't keep taking naps. That's unprofessional. But of course, the Azir start, we talked about Jiizuke versus NukeDuck. Feels like NukeDuck has to be an absolute terror in these team fights to stop Vitality, but these are not slow targets. Everyone on this team is so mobile. It's going to be so hard for Azir to actually deal consistent damage when you've got a Zoe leaping around, a Camille leaping around, only Minitroupax, the one that could be easy to take down if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah. Ocean Drake taken by Vitality. They did lose that Infernal very early on into the game, but they do have 2 under the belt right now. Only 28 minutes. This is an insanely fast game, Dracos. One thing that you can be for sure about Vitality is they definitely know how to press the go button. And we've always praised them for their confidence. This is a young team that's very eager to be the best very quickly. And what we heard from Yamato on the podcast was very much that, you know what? They lost, they were annoyed, but if anything, it actually drove them to try and be better. They actually just want to improve as fast as possible. They don't want to have that feeling of defeat. And so far, they're showing the small amount of growth that they can make in such a short amount of time.
And I think that's exactly what you want to hear if you're a Vitality fan, is that they can stay strong, that this confidence that you see on stage, I mean, you can hear it if you're in the audience, these guys screaming, hooting, hollering at every single play that they make. You know, that's the thing you want to know is going to be stable, not just something that's fickle. But on the opposite side, Schalke, they played, you know, they had a bit of a false start, struggled with subs in the first week, but now the team full up, Upset no longer struggling with illness, and we want to see what this team can do.
And I feel like we saw some bright sparks in the early game, right? Pride playing pretty confidently himself, utilizing the composition pretty effectively. Bottom lane seemed to be building up a bit of an advantage, but then Vitality just seemed to turn the on switch. And Schalke, they just weren't prepared for that kind of a movement. They were not expecting this very early TP play, and they kind of struggled to now reclaim control over the game. And I feel like that over the last 2 weeks of EU LCS, we're actually yet to see this team really come back when they've been put in this kind of a deficit.
They have the tools to do so. We'll talk about it and we'll keep talking about it, because scaling, definitely something on their side. You can see the tanks are going to be harder and harder to kill. You can see it even more in the itemization coming in from Jiizuke. Yes, he does have the Leandries, but opted for the Death Cap instead of the Void Staff. But now, potentially, Jiizuke finds a way onto the back fight. Upset is asleep. He's going to stop the fight from progressing any further, but NukeDuck with so much confidence. You can see him frontlining, not afraid to push forward. Vizicsacsi is locked up. Varus doing a lot of damage, trying to shred through. Vizicsacsi could potentially be in trouble. The team is trying to back him up. Vizicsacsi is overextended. This is now Vitality's fight to win, but Upset has been locked in. NukeDuck is there for the backup. They're peeling. The 2 AD threats are left alive on the back line. Upset and NukeDuck versus the world, but Vitality are hunting. Vitality are merciless. You can see the inhibitor going down in the meantime, and Vizicacsi's bravado and confidence may have cost the team the Baron.
Schalke, again, they tried to force the fight, but they did it by diving onto the back line of Vitality while the team was so spread out. They had an easy angle onto pressuring players like NukeDuck and Upset. Without them properly getting involved in the fight, Vitality were just able to take their time and focus this front line. Remember, Rageblade in terms of DPS is so strong once you get the full 8 stacks. They just chunked through that Cho'Gath. It didn't matter how much HP he had, he just slowly got whittled down and allowed Vitality to get the kill and secure their second Baron of the game.
And just the chain CC, they saw the overextend, they saw that realistically, Schalke couldn't play very confidently with Jiizuke, unanswered threat on the back line. And it looks like Schalke might just not be very comfortable playing against Zoe in these scenarios, because even if she's not landing a lot of the skill shots, although to be fair she is, it's still causing so much disruption for the Schalke lineup.
Now, is it Zoe or is it Jiizuke Zoe that they're struggling with? Because we've seen this before, and it feels like that this mid lane madman is bringing the storm to the European LCS. Now level 17, Death Cap completed. They have their eyes set on beginning week 3 with a win.
Baron buff backs them up as they look to break the second inhibitor. Cabo may try to make it 3 as the team moves onto the last tower. Schalke, man, caught between a rock and a hard place. Don't feel like there's too many right answers left for them if they want to close this game in their favor. For now, it's Vitality with the onslaught. They may just look to break all 3 inhibitors wide open. Schalke can't afford to get their backline picked. Vander not going to find the engage. Jacktroll just going to use the ulti to get out. Good patience comes in from Vitality. Jiizuke on the front line still going to make it to safety, but with 3 inhibitors just about down, this could be disastrous for Schalke. Starting to look grim.
A lot of ultimates were used on the side of Vitality, but Schalke, again, like, they're not really seeing any big opportunities. The Braum ulti being down removes one of the big engage tools, but here Upset goes.
Going in, no ulti comes in for Vander. They are going to find the CC, but it's all onto Gilius. Jiizuke playing Havoc as best as he can. They're trying to disrupt him. Jacktroll is in trouble, but they can't quite finish the kill. Camille now backing off. Schalke baring their fangs, letting Vitality know this is not going to be an easy win, even with the 3 inhibs down, but Vitality are confident nonetheless. Jacktroll TPing back in, double TP coming back in. This is the Summoner Spellbook meta, baby. Everybody TPing into the fight. This could very well be the end for Vitality.
Vitality, they want to just close things out. They took a lot of damage, but now Schalke, they're holding the line as best they can. The wave clear on NukeDuck and Kalista, doing what it can. And here we will see, that's a big sleep.
Not going to be able to connect. Had the Unbreakable, so the team can't follow up, but Minitroupax still finding a few autos here and there. Schalke just waiting for one member to overextend. Going to see if they can take him out immediately, but it's so difficult at this point in the game.
Vitality are just really struggling to finally break these final towers, but all the members of Schalke have back. This could be it.
It's going to be both towers at least. Schalke need to turn. If they want to turn, they have to do it here. They need to find the fight. Jacktroll on the front line has a lot, but not enough to get through the true damage of Vizicsacsi. Holding on for now. One inhibitor tower left. Upset, not quite as scared as he once was. Saw the cooldowns burned. Starting to feel himself a little bit. Starting to feel a little bit more confidence. Vitality are relentless. They keep pushing forward.
They're still here. 20 seconds left on the Baron. They want to use it to break that final tower, and they've got it. Now they need to disengage, get out, and let Schalke can get a couple more kills.
Gilius could be in trouble. Looks like he is set to fall. Will take him down, so a pick back for Schalke. That could be a start to something, but for now they are just locked in that base, defending the last things that they have.
Grouped up as that 5-man, Schalke show some of the strengths of their comp. It can be difficult to get through this front line of a Cho'Gath and a Braum, but they still lose all 3 inhibitors and both their Nexus towers. There is barely anything left of the base. They are desperate to try and farm up, get a couple of extra items so that they can go for one last-ditch team fight, which could potentially buy them enough time to turn this game around, but Vitality looking so patient, so clean and calm. And they should be on track to take this game.
And I feel like they've proven so much this game, Vedius. The fact that they came back from these early game deficits, not just stalling out with a late game scaling composition, but playing around some mid game spikes, clever use of the TP to get priority on the top side. It's a good look for Vitality.
Very good look. I love the innovation. We've seen a lot of TPs being used to just get back into lane sooner so that you don't lose experience and that you're keeping up in gold and you can keep the pressure up. But Vitality, they just walked back into lane. They kept their teleports up. Upset obviously couldn't change because he decided to run with the lethal tempo. And that allowed them to make such a great early game move. Very intelligent from Vitality. And it just echoes what we heard from Yamato. They like to be trendsetters. They want to try something different. They just don't want to stick with what the standard meta is. They just don't want to copy Korea. They want to take aspects and create their own style.
Working out well for them. Schalke though, Gilius will make it out to safety. You can see that the inhibitor has respawned, so this is the last wave of double super minions. Fortunately, Cabo's looking to keep them coming back at this point in the game, and Upset has to be very careful. Oh, now trying to find the engage. We're moving upward. Immediately, one member is picked off. Jiizuke has been taken down. Pride on the front line goes golden. Buys a brief moment, but the rest of the team is pulling back because Cabo is trying to end the game. Eyes on Gilius. Varus is moving in, and they get it! Instant end for Vitality.
That was starting to look like a great team fight for Schalke. Vitality recognized, you know what? Let's just end it. All their hard work from earlier finally pays off. They rush the Nexus down. They secure a win. And they take down Schalke.
Everyone knows.
And I mean, well earned. Good turnaround after a bit of a rough early game. Losing out on pressure in the lanes. Coming back. Jiizuke and really the entire team showing up across these fights, splitting up Schalke and taking them down. And also, I love the pop-off, Vedius. I haven't seen a League of Legends pop-off in a long time, but Jiizuke was out of that chair in half a second.
Look at Andre,
he was feeling it.
hugging his former players. You still gotta feel good, right, to see the growth that this Vitality roster has made. Formerly of Giants, 4 of the 5 members of Vitality. They're putting on a good show. They did not come in expected to be the strong contenders, kind of middle of the pack towards the bottom end. But this young set of rookies have once again demonstrated their understanding of how to play the map. They are confident in their drafts. They are confident in their picks. And they're just individually so talented and constantly finding these fantastic opportunities that you wouldn't typically expect from other players in the league.
Yeah, it's just so impressive. Well, Vitality won our match of the week, and we want to know which individuals you think stood out. You can head over to @LOL Esports on Twitter and vote for your player of the game. Your options are Jiizuke, Cabochard, and Gilius this time around. And Vedius, QuickShot and Deficio, I mean, admittedly, they influenced the vote a little bit, but I think people still want to know who is your player of the game?
My player of the game, see now, for me, it was kind of Jacktroll. Because for me, he actually had some fantastic Alistar
Anyone who hears that is going to show you the one misplay he made. But you're right, he did have a lot of
For me, like, he was just, definitely credit to all three of the names mentioned. I think you could very easily give it to all three of them. But just for me, seeing that kind of Alistar play and the fact that he turned around what could have been a disaster for Vitality by keeping his AD carry alive and stalling for enough time for the rest of his team to show up, that then secured them the Baron. That for me was kind of the big play that solidified Vitality's lead and eventually resulted in
and it's hard to pick just one when a team turns it around like this. Well, in our next game, the struggling G2 eSports hope to take a step back towards the top as they face off against Splice. We'll be back for that in an interview with Minitroupax in just a few minutes. Might just be the year of the Duck. Pride looking maybe for the first